Hey guys, what's going on? Hope y'all are having a good day. Thanks for tuning into the video, much appreciated. And today's topic, we're going to talk about the fall transition and sort of go over in detail some things about that and sort of give you guys maybe a better understanding of it if you are really unsure how it happens or what it is. And I got Elijah here at the front of the boat, so he'll probably be coming back here before long. So anyway, you know, one of the biggest elements as far as getting to be a good angler is understanding seasonal movements, seasonal patterns of bass. And when you're talking about seasonal patterns and seasonal movements and transitions, it's a really vague, broad concept because it's like one shoe doesn't fit all size, or whatever the saying is like that. There's some basic elements that are true about it. But normally what you have in any lake, it doesn't matter if it's a man-made lake, natural lake, or river, is you have several distinct populations of bass that behave differently and they act differently and they use different types of water at the same time every month out of the year. There's always a group of bass that are going to be deeper than others, a group that are going to be shallower, a group that are a little behind, a little bit ahead. So when we talk about the fall transition and trying to understand what it is, you got to keep that in mind. This video is a real broad generalization of what it is, because each one of your lakes is going to have situations uniquely their own that's going to alter that a little bit, because a lot of different factors play into that. You know, the water level, the weather patterns, the species of fish you have in it, the cover, all that type of stuff plays in. But basically what we're talking about, to give you guys a basic fundamental understanding, and even if you fish a lot, maybe help to explain a little bit more, is there's three distinct periods in the fall transition. You have the early fall transition, then you have the mid-fall transition, and the late fall transition. So we'll start out with the first one, the early fall transition, which we're sort of in right now in most parts of the country. It's when I'm making this video, it's September 1st. It's late summer, early fall, that type of thing. And you have some stuff changing, some stuff going on right now. One of the things you'll notice in early fall, late summer, early fall right now is, number one, it's some of the toughest fishing you're going to have all year long. I consider August and September probably the two toughest months to fish as far as catching bass. And September probably a little bit more tougher than August. The reason for this is you have the bass doing so many different things. You have a lot of bass suspended, roaming, chasing shad. There's a lot of shad activity, a lot of bait fish activity, you know, on different depth levels right now. So you have a lot of bass using a lot of the water column, more so than others if the water's really clear. You got bass moving and staying shallow still after feeding perch. You've got the shad chasers. You've just got fish all over the place, and that's one of the reasons why the late or the early fall is as tough as it is because of that transition. So that is the main thing that the overriding theme in early fall is you got fish all over the place. So one of the things that you can do to take advantage of that is you can sort of pick and choose how you want to fish. If you want to fish shallow, there's always a shallow bite. There's a good shallow water, top water bite most of the time. If you want to go out and graph, live scope, whatever, for suspended fish off point ends and sides, there's some out there. A lot of fish, you know, just all over the place. You know, a lot of fish starting to move back into the major creeks. And the late fall period transition is not necessarily, doesn't have much to do with a water temperature drop, because in the early fall you don't see a significant water temperature drop. What happens, the next transitional phase, is the mid-fall period, and this is when you start having the first significant temperature drops, particularly at night. The nighttime temperatures are getting cooler. You know, like here in Missouri, instead of it cooling down into the 60s and 70s at night, we start to get some nights into the 50s, and it starts to get consistent like this, and the water temperatures begin to start cool down. They begin to start to cool slowly. On top of that, normally you have some of the lower water levels in the fall time of the year. A lot of the times the lakes are dropping slowly in the mid-fall, and that combination of the dropping temperatures and dropping water puts the bass in the first noticeable transition that you see in the fall time of the year. And the first thing that you're going to notice in the fall time of the year is you've got a lot more fish becoming active shallow. This is the time of year where you can start catching more fish, again, on top waters, on spinner baits, on shatter baits, on moving type baits. The fish are getting just a little bit more active with that cooler water. At the same time, if you have a lake where the fish suspend in, say if you've got water visibility over 3 or 4 feet in the lake you're fishing, and you've got a mixed population of largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth, or even spotted bass and largemouth, those fish that are suspended out there a lot of times will begin to come to the surface. So you start noticing a lot of surface activity on like main lake points, secondary points. This is one of the big things, the big transitional change that you have during the mid-fall, is a lot of those bass that were suspended really deep start now coming up to the surface more. If the lake is real clear, like if you have over 5 foot of visibility, you start having bigger groups of fish schooling up really deep suspended. And this is the time of year where a lot of guys start to catch those bigger strings of fish suspended out of schools in really deep water, if you have clear water there. So that's the first noticeable transition. Now in the late fall transition, the next phase that you start seeing in that is you start seeing a more radical change in the water temperature. Again, when you're starting to get in late October and November, you start seeing, nighttime temperatures throughout a lot of the part of the country, dropping, 15 to 20 degrees cooler than they were in the late summer, early fall period. For example, here in Missouri, in late October, sometimes we get freezing temperatures at night. And once you start getting those big cold snaps, those big fall front cold snaps in the fall, those water temperatures start to plummet a little bit, and they start to get down into the 60s and into the 50s. And once you start getting those water temperatures down in the 50s in the later fall, the biggest transition you're going to see and the biggest thing you're going to notice is, number one, it's going to be an improvement in the fishing overall on the lake, and you're going to have bigger numbers of big fish move shallow. Once that water temperature starts to get down in the 50s, you'll have quality bass, 3 to 5 pound bass, start to move up shallow. A lot of times they go back in the back of the coves, in the backs of the creek arms. Some population, if you have a big spotted bass or smallmouth population, they move up shallower on the main and secondary points. They become very conditioned to bite during different type of windows during the day based upon different weather conditions, wind, light intensity, clouds, that type of stuff. But the thing that you're going to notice in that transition is an overall improvement in the numbers and quality bass that you catch. So guys, that's just a real basic 101 overview of the fall transition. Tons of other stuff that goes with it we can cover in other videos, but I just wanted to cover that. And just to reiterate, I'll go over this again. The first early fall transition characterized by tough fishing. Fish are all over the place, scattered in a lot of different water columns. Mid-fall transition, you start seeing more fish become active a little bit shallower. You start to have your deeper suspended fish becoming more active. Fishing getting a little bit better. And in the late fall, when those water temperatures drop, you see a drastic improvement in the fishing and the numbers and quality. Bigger fish are moving shallow. So just a quick overview. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hadn't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please do so, and we'll see y'all later.